Wednesday, word. Wednesday, word. Wednesday, word. And we are live. What is going on? Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn Live. It is your man, Coach Rowe. What's going on, Brother Bruce? Today is Wednesday, and I'd like to welcome you to the Wednesday Word. That's Wednesday Word. Now, this is a little different Wednesday Word because as you may have been notified last year, Wednesday Word is no longer scheduled as the Wednesday Word. However, I will have these moments on the Wednesday Word where I come for some special edition Wednesday Words, and they will still be on Wednesday when I come with them, just because, Wednesday feels right. So anyway, that being said, this is the first special edition of the Wednesday Word. And I felt like what better way to come back with a special edition for the Wednesday Word is to pick up where I started last year. I'm still not into 2024 yet. Pick up where I started last year in 2024 with the guiding light. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with what the guiding light is, really the guiding light is about a word that I select at the beginning of my year to kind of be my focal point. I've been doing this for years upon years now, but the word I used in 2021 was thriving. And so really what thriving was about moving towards habits of abundance. How can I get into a space where everything that I was doing was thriving? And in many ways in 2021, boy, let me tell you, I thrived. From writing a book to buying 2 properties in 1 year to just like really getting my life on a really good thriving track. That wasn't 2021. That was 2022. In 2023, which was last year, my guiding light word moved from thriving into fluency. And what fluency was about wasn't about just language, like understanding languages. It was really about gaining mastery about different parts of my life, in areas of finance, in areas of real estate, in areas of being a husband, in areas of being a father, just in every area that I could possibly try to glean fluency. I was really working to gain that mastery. And so then that leads us to 2024, my guiding light word for 2024. But before I give you my guiding light word for 2024, thank you for whoever is watching, because I can't see. Say something in the comments and I'll know who you are. But before I give you my guiding light word for 2024, I really want to go over briefly how I go about the process of determining my guiding light word. And I'm going to go really quickly because if you want, you can go back to another Wednesday word where the first guiding light word appeared, and it would tell you how that process is in much more detail. But tool number 1 when it comes to my guiding light for 2024 is I always try to embrace the word. Now, by embrace the word, what I really mean is trying to figure out a word that will have gravity around it. Think about it like our solar system, right? At one point, we thought that everything revolved, or the sun revolved around the earth. We later found that everything was revolving around the sun. You want to find a word that is like a sun, that is so dense that its gravity causes things to revolve around it. And what it does is that word will eventually, as you embrace it, it will pull you towards it. You'll start seeing it. I promise you this, you will start seeing it in so many of the things that you do. You're going to think it's a magic trick. It's not a magic trick. It's just the gravity of the word. So embrace the word that you select for your guiding light. The second tool is choose a meaningful word. I personally can't see the guiding light working if you're just proving or choosing a word that's like, oh, I want to be nice this year. This year, my word is nice. I want to be nice. The word should be something that every time you hear it, it's so unique. It's so distinct that you realize and recognize that you're hearing this word, whether it's coming from you or it's coming from others. The word should be meaningful, and it should also be impactful. Like it should hit you in the feels when you hear it. And then lastly is limit yourself to one word. Now, this is an optional rule. Some people have multiple rules. I've actually had a couple of people reach out to me this year with their guiding light words, which is the first time that they've done that. But very, very fascinating that they've done it. but the word they some of them actually have more than one word. They have two words. They don't have like 16 words. I don't think the guiding light is going to work if you have 16 words. It's like trying to be on the ocean looking at 16 different lighthouses. You're not going to know where the rocks are in between the lighthouses. But having like one, maybe two, at most three, I'm going to say for me personally, having three words, what it will do is it will help you hone in on choosing a word that is going to be impactful, that you can embrace. If you have too many words, if you have like 16 words and there's really no significant impact in 16 words, it's like, oh, today ice cream was the word, tomorrow popsicles was the word. You're eventually going to lose the impact or the potency of your guiding light. And then the other thing that I added here, which I did not share in the last one, which is a bonus tool, is don't be afraid to share your guiding light. And I say this in a couple of different ways. Casual, what's going on? Yes, a Wednesday word. I say this with a prerequisite. Don't be afraid to share your guiding light with the people that will help you improve your focus upon it. If you share your guiding light with people who are going to distract you about it or try to tear you down about it, like take my guiding light last year of fluency. If I shared fluency with people like, hey, I really want to gain mastery over blah, 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 blah. And it was like every time I was doing something that wasn't right, they're like, yo, you're not gaining mastery. You're not gaining mastery. You're not gaining fluency. Is that fluency? At some point, that makes me feel like, dang, I don't even want to hear this word fluency anymore. You want to share your guiding light with the right people. And trust me, it becomes really easy as you start being selective on the company that you keep, that you'll more than likely than not share your guiding light with the right people. So those are the tools that I wanted to go over before I shared what my guiding light was for this year, or is for this year. So as always with the guiding light, it's a journey for me. It's not just something that's like, oh, I like that word and I select it. And actually, I always end up where I feel like there's like a competing 2 to 3 to 4 words that I'm like, which one is going to be the guiding light? And I'm really looking to try to figure out what it is. Last year in fluency, I really was looking on adding things. How am I going to add? How am I going to add? Where the competing word, I believe, for fluency was release, which would be how am I going to let go or how am I going to take away. And this year, my guiding light word that I thought was going to be my guiding light word was actually heartbeats. Now, if you would have come to the Men's Circle Legacy Conference in Sacramento, California last year, you would have realized that I use the word heartbeats as currency. It is the currency that we have that we give to other people that we can't get back. There's no refunds. Once you do it, once you give it, it's gone. It's not coming back. You're not going to see that heartbeat again. And I really wanted to focus on how I was going to spend my currency intentionally in 2024. But as I started defining heartbeats, that word intentionally started coming up a lot. And slowly but surely, I shifted my word from from heartbeats to intentionality. And before I share what that means for me in 2024, hey, what's going on, Mr. AR? Before I share what that means for me in 2024, I want to share the definition of intentionality. Let me bring my screen up. I'm always trying new technology. So intentionality, I looked at the definition of it, and it was actually to be purposeful or deliberate. And so when I started thinking about intentionality as being deliberate, what it means is it's not an accident. It's not something that, oops, I accidentally was intentional on what I've done. And how I want to apply intentionality this year, I'm a pretty intentional person. I don't know if you can tell by all the Wednesday word content that's out here, but I'm pretty intentional about the things that I do. But how I wanted to imply intentionality to my life in 2024 was not so much about me, but it was about the relationships that I have and understanding how relationships show up in my life. So that intentionality part for 2024, my guiding light isn't so much about how I'm intentionally involving myself in the lives of others or anything like that, because I feel like I do a pretty good job at that. I'm sure there's areas that I can work on, but I feel like I do a good job overall at being intentional with the relationships that I keep. But really, it's about requiring intentionality in the relationships that are in my life. And so, in my reflection and during my deep work of this, what I was able to find was that I have an abundance of relationships. Like, I'm not talking about Facebook relationships. I'm talking about like long 15, 20, 30-year relationships in my life. The problem is that for most of those relationships that have been long, consistent relationships, oftentimes as I was reflecting, I found that I was the glue that was holding those relationships together. I was always the person to reach out to check on, see how people were doing. I'm notorious for leaving people voice messages saying, "Don't want nothing, don't need nothing, just calling to say how you doing, see how you doing." And in that, what's happened is those relationships have stayed relatively intact and relatively healthy. With the intentionality being for 2024 as my guiding light, what I'm doing is I'm pulling back from those relationships that I have continually been the glue for. And I actually had this conversation with a friend before the new year started. I had reached out, or they had reached out to me, and we were talking. And I told them, I said, "Hey, for me, I'm going to allow people to show me how they want to intentionally show up in my life." I think for the past 40 years, no, well, let's not say 40. Let's say for the past 38 years, I've tried to show people from a very young age that I want to intentionally be a part of their lives. Now, there's some trauma that's attached to that. That's a whole nother Wednesday word, a whole nother story. But it was my sense of creating a safe space and a safe family that I could attach to. Um, but this year, what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow the relationships that have been one sided, we're going to call them one sided, where there has been some malnourishment from the other side in that relationship. I'm going to allow those relationships to show me how they want our relationship to be intentional. And I'm going to look at their intentionality of developing and keeping the relationship with me. And in having this conversation with this person, instead of like getting defensive or, "Oh, well, what does that mean for me?" or "How is that going to impact me?" or "You're not going to call me now?" Instead of all those different things, um, it literally was a moment where they said, "You know what? I got to get better at doing that, because you are always the person who reaches out to me. And I think about you and I think, oh, I should call Billy. And I think, oh, you know what? I haven't talked to Billy in a while. And I think, I wonder how Billy's doing." And I never make that call. And it's not too far from when I think it that you call me and say, "Hey, how are you doing?" I got to get better at that. And that's the intentionality part that I'm looking at in 2024, is how are people intentionally connecting with me? How are people intentionally reaching out to me? Now, it doesn't mean that there won't be people that I don't reach out to. There will be, but there'll be the people that have probably reached out to me throughout the years, and it doesn't feel like a one-sided relationship. But for those relationships that feel like they're one-sided, I'm going to allow 2024 to be the year where that intentionality shows me if this is the relationship that I wanted it to be and they're just along for the ride, or if it's the relationship that we want it to be. And so I'm going to engage with people in the manner in which they engage with me. Some may sound somewhat petty, but it's not in a petty sense like, "Well, you didn't call me, so I didn't call you." It's not that. It's simply saying, I feel like I have made a significant investment into this relationship. And that's why this last bullet point says balancing value. I want that investment that I made to have a reciprocal return on investment and it's reciprocal balance. So it will get my relationship in balance with them. And what we'll find by the what I will find by the end of 2024 is and going into 2025 is that the relationships that didn't get nourished and that kind of withered and just kind of fell off because I wasn't doing the actions that I normally do, what we'll find is hey, maybe those relationships had reached their peak in their season and it was time for them to fall off so that I could more intentionally focus on those relationships that are more balanced in the value that they provide. And so I thought about it from the perspective when I think about intentionality, I think about like telephone lines, and that's why in the background of this you have a telephone line Telephone lines at one point before we had cell phones were connected to almost every single household in America, which means if a person had a phone, imagine every household in America had a phone. That probably wasn't the case, but if every household in America had a phone, that means that when you pick up the phone, you had a choice on who you could call. You had a choice on going across the same lines that everybody had access to make those calls, whether it's to your parents, to your girlfriend, to your friends, to your sisters, your brothers, to a job, whatever it may be. Whoever you picked up the phone to call, you could call and make that connection. Now, here's what didn't happen is you picked up the phone and it called out and randomly connected you to somebody that you didn't call. Now, you might have dialed the wrong number and got connected to somebody that you didn't call, but it didn't randomly send you to people based on the number that you dialed. Oh, I dialed my old home phone number and now I'm over at somebody else's house. No, you dial your home phone number, you call home. That's what happens. The problem is that for me, for myself, for many decades, not years, many decades, my intentionality has been to pick up the phone and try to make all those connections across every single wire as if phone conversations or phone calls can only go in one direction, when the reality is they can go both ways. And so now what I'm doing is I'm allowing the phone line to send the signal to my line versus my line sending the signal out to other people's lines. And in doing so, again, what it will do is it will free up bandwidth for myself to be able to experience the relationships that are more likely, not going to guarantee it, but more likely going to reciprocate the effort and the energy that I have. And here's the thing, as I've made this my guiding light word for this year, I've already had a couple of people reach out to me that it was like, whoa, I wasn't expecting this person to reach out to me. I wasn't sure if they were going to reach out to me, but they have reached out to me. And because they've reached out to me, now I'm like, okay, now I can be a little more intentional with that because it's not just me reaching out all the time. And what you'll find is, again, those ones that wither away, they could have something going on with their life. I don't want that to be lost. Something could be going on with their life, and maybe they come back around in a different season. But if there's nothing going on with their life and you're not the one reaching out, then it just might mean that how much or how often you think about them, they don't think about you. And so that's my guiding light word for the year. It's intentionality, not in regards to me being intentional with people, unless you're saying me being intentional is allowing people to reach out to me instead of me being the person reaching out. There's still my everyday people that I'll reach out to. B. Gatewoods, you are definitely one of those people that he and I connect at least once or twice a week. We keep each other encouraged and we hold each other accountable. He's the reason why I have this Wednesday word up tonight, because I told him I'm going to do a Wednesday word this week, and I did it. Casual, I appreciate you rocking with me, Mr. AR. Mr. AR, I appreciate you rocking with me. Things are going very well. Hopefully your life gets back in order, goes from okay to good to great. It's a process, so don't think you're just going to go from okay to great, but okay to good to great. It's 100% possible to do. Other than that, that's really all I have for you guys today. I just wanted to come in and say hello, let you know that there's some Wednesday Word special editions coming this year. And then the last thing is, if you are a man and you are watching live or you're watching via the replay, join us next Tuesday. The Men's Circle Season 3 comes back online. 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be talking about silent suffering. It's a space that I'm actually, just to be transparent, that I'm in between right now. The gauge is kind of leaning towards silent suffering versus away from silent suffering, or at least in balance. But we're going to have a conversation about that and talk about the cycles of silent suffering and some of the things we can do to pull ourselves out of it, and some of the things that some of the support that we need in surrounding us in order to make sure that we can stay out of the silent suffering and the deeper, darker issues that come with it. But that is really what I have for you guys today. That's it. I can't even say see you next week for the Wednesday Word, but I will see you next week for the Men's Circle. Until the next time, if you like this video, share it. If you do share this video, like it. Always happy to engage with you in the comments for the first 7 days. Then we move on to other content. But then after that, yeah. Until the next time, one love. Peace. Peace and God bless. Thank you for sitting on the first row.